Am I going to be accused of a crime? No, wait, and now, I'm very excited for this. Actually, we have the second coming of a gentleman that I'm very excited to welcome up onto the Good Evening stage. He's the Executive Director of Change Illinois. He's been a busy man since last we saw him. Please give it up for Rod Joy. Rod! I'm going to be asking all the tough questions, so you want to be real sober for this. It's good to see you again, Rob.
It's good to be back.
It feels like just yesterday that we were here and you were explaining to me what exactly remapping and automatic voter registration are.
There are issues that are essential to the health of our democracy.
I mean, you say that.
Yes.
I mean, are they? I mean, really? Like, are they? Because, I mean, look, automatic voter registration is... It's exactly what it sounds like, right? I mean, you get automatically voter registered. Is that a good explanation?
That's a good start. We should get your lawyer back out here, actually.
I know. He knows more word good than me, dude. Well, can you tell us a little bit about Change Illinois? Because the name says a lot. But so, I mean, please.
Well, Change actually is an acronym, and it stands for the Coalition for Honest and New Government Ethics. And we're a statewide public policy and political reform coalition. We serve and represent a diverse network of leaders and institutions that have two things in common. The first is a commitment to strengthen the health of our democracy. And the second really is an appetite, a passion to cultivate a more vibrant culture of civic participation in this state. We are living in a moment where public trust in our public institutions is at an all-time low.
Is it really?
I think what's happening in Washington,
D.C.
D.C.
Yeah.
is pretty unbelievable. Our democratic norms no longer seem normal. What's happening in Springfield, I think, I'm here to talk about good news coming from Springfield.
We have really good news.
It doesn't happen often, but if you look at Springfield in general, it's a symbol of dysfunction. Our politics has been polarized by hyper-partisan politics. And as a result, it breeds cynicism. It promotes this narrative that tells people that the game is rigged, that the fix is in, and it discourages people from getting involved in public life. And we think that there's a solution to that. And in order to solve that problem, there are two things we need to do. The first is we need to change the rules that govern political participation to make them more fair, functional, and inclusive.
Is that what voter registration is about?
It certainly is. It's a move to really improve our systems of democracy and give more power to ordinary people. Essentially, automatic voter registration is a paradigm shift in terms of how we register voters and how we carry out elections in this state. Two things to keep in mind.
Are we going to have less of them? Because that would be really...
Less voters?
Well, no, less elections.
Yes. Well, we need more people to get involved in civic life and to actively climb the ladder of civic engagement. But with AVR, automatic voter registration, which is the acronym is AVR, it's a paradigm shift, and there are two things I want your viewers to understand about AVR. The first thing is it enables state agencies, the DMV, IDNR, other state agencies, when they interact with the public, to transfer data securely and electronically to the State Board of Elections.
State Board of Elections.
Not through snail mail, but through electronic means.
That's a little fancy. It's a little new age for me.
The second piece, which is more fundamental, is it shifts the burden from voters to the state. Right now, voters have to opt in.
I'm sorry, gentlemen, can we both have you speak a little bit louder?
Absolutely.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Right now, voters have to opt in to become registered. This would change our system to an opt-out system. So when you go get your driver's license or your state ID, you interact with any state agency, and you're an eligible voter, you automatically would be registered unless you choose not to. So it places the burden on the state instead of the voter. And long story short, every eligible voter, once you're registered, that will stay with you wherever you travel. If you travel from Chicago to Carbondale or from Quincy to Aurora, you don't have to worry about registration anymore. You'll always be registered.
It's like your permanent record. How my high school principals always tell me this permanent record's going to follow you everywhere you go.
Yeah.
And that's like voting.
I don't know. I wouldn't make that analogy.
He really, he was hot to trot about it. I mean, he mentioned it every time he saw me, even after I graduated. Like, that's a long story. My thing is change.
Yes.
NGE, new government ethics. What are the old government ethics?
Well, I think we are still experiencing old government ethics, which is a lack of ethics.
Oh my!
Which is a politics where elected officials serve themselves instead of the public interest. I think we want to represent a free press, fair elections, equal rights. We want to get more people involved in the process. We want to close the gap. Right now there's this huge gap that exists between the really small handful of people who wield disproportionate power and the views and voices of ordinary people. There's this huge gap that exists between the seriousness of the issues facing our city and our state and the pettiness of our politics.
You mentioned a little bit about, obviously there's been a lot of talk about the state budget.
Yes.
That's affecting, kind of having a waterfall effect on other things, but we talk about things more locally here in Chicago, like the Chicago Public Schools debt and things of that nature. Are you saying these things are connected?
They're all connected.
It sounds a little conspiratorial. Are you sure?
Yes, they're all connected, but I think, again, the solution is really, we have to change the systems. We have to put in place structural reforms that give more power to people. And then the second thing we need to do is we need more and more people to opt into civic life, to pay attention, to tune in, to make their voices heard. I understand that this is episode 29. 29. And I understand that the theme of this episode is action.
Action.
And we need more people to act.
What a coincidence. So, in talking about action,
yes.
Since last I had you on last year, what, you make a couple phone calls, knock on a couple doors, automatic voter registration, boom. Everyone can get behind this idea, Rod. Probably took no time at all. Am I right or am I right?
I wish it were that easy.
Oh.
This is a reform that was 2 years in the making. I am proud to be co-chair of a group called Just Democracy Illinois.
This is a coalition of different groups.
Yeah, it's a voting rights collaborative.
Can I ask you something?
Yes, absolutely.
Is it just democracy, like we don't do socialism? Or is it like just democracy, like it's democracy, but it's like Justice League?
How about this? Actually, Just Democracy is the Justice League for Illinois.
Are you Wonder Woman? She's hot right now.
I tell people they're kind of like the Jedi Knights of the democracy reform space.
I like that. Would that make Bruce Brown or Kylo Ren?
How about this? No comment. We are anxiously awaiting the governor's signature on automatic voter registration.
Wait. Hang on. Whoa. I thought that this 115 votes to none in the House.
Correct.
48 votes to none in the Senate.
That's pretty good, Pat. Yes.
Done. We're done. I got it all right here.
Yes.
Don't,
Yes.
please. Don't. I wanted to make some Batman versus Superman because would that be Rom versus Rom? Anyway. No, it wouldn't. Ron versus Ron is too exciting, right? To be compared to Batman versus Superman. It was a bad movie. That's a joke. Anyway. My point is, you got it passed through both houses. So, done deal. Go home. Hang up your cleats. Retire. Nice, island up in the UP of Michigan, right? You're just gonna relax.
How about this? It's going to happen, but there's so much more work to be done. And once this becomes law, we have to make sure it's implemented. There are also a whole host of other reforms that we need to get after.
Come on, wait.
Yes.
You got to pass it through both houses.
Yes.
Then you got to make sure the governor signs it.
Yes.
And then you have to implement it.
Absolutely.
That's a lot of action.
Yes.
We only have an hour.
Yes. But I will say, and this is important, about how this proposal was developed. I think it represents a symbol of the spirit of bipartisanship that's urgently needed in Springfield. We lost on this reform last year, despite having strong bipartisan support. Last year in 2016, the governor vetoed a very similar proposal. We did not give up. We essentially took a Republican version of this measure. We introduced it in February. We've been in close communication with the governor's office, leaders at various state agencies, lawmakers on both sides of the aisle. We've implemented a number of improvements that were suggested by key stakeholders. It passed the state Senate, as you mentioned, 48 to nothing. 22 Republican state senators voted for this. It passed the state house with unanimous bipartisan support, 115 to nothing.
That's
the governor.
pretty good.
The governor has said he's going to sign this bill.
Governor says a lot of things.
Yeah, I understand that. But I give him credit for saying he's going to do the right thing. But we're not giving up until he signs. We're not going to spike the ball at the 10-yard line. We need to make sure it's signed into law and that it's fully implemented. But I will say that this is a good news story. It's a big deal for Illinois. This is a giant step forward for Democratic participation in our state, and we want to build on that momentum to bring about other key reforms.
And there are more in store for Just Democracy, but let me ask you, Rob,
Yes.
if it passed both houses with both Democratic and Republican support, how many values did you have to sacrifice to get it through both parties?
That's hilarious, Pat. We did not sacrifice any of our values. In fact, we demonstrated the type of leadership and integrity that I think is needed right now.
It's not hard for me to believe that, because this seems kind of like a no-brainer piece of legislation. Like, you want more people to vote. And yet we are surrounded by other states like Indiana and Wisconsin that seem to be putting more and more barriers between voters and the voting booth. What do you make of that?
I think it's a common sense reform. I think the fact that it sailed through the House and Senate reflects that this is a positive step in the right direction. There are some folks out there. I noticed at the top of the program you said you weren't going to say his name, so we're not going to
mention him. It doesn't exist for another half hour.
But this is important because Illinois is taking a step in the right direction at a moment in time where things are happening nationally, where we're rolling back voting rights and civil rights, and where we're seeing in other states they're making it much more difficult for people to cast a ballot. I'm proud that Illinois is taking a step in the right direction.
Hey, me too.
Good.
I'm also, I think that's a good thing. You were explaining the concept of automatic voter registration to your son, was it not?
Yes.
And then you were trying to explain to him something else. I believe it was Blockbuster Video.
Blockbuster Video.
What is the connection here? Why were you using that to explain the other?
So AVR is often referred to as the new motor voter bill.
Motor voter, I've heard of this.
Motor Voter 2.0. And in 1993, the Motor Voter, the National Voter Registration Act, was signed into law.
Right, yeah.
And essentially, it was groundbreaking at the time, essentially put into effect when you go to the DMV, you can register to vote, you can opt in. And that was revolutionary in 1993.
Because before that you had to, again, the onus was on you as a citizen.
Well, before that you didn't register to vote at other state agencies, and so this was a way to open up the process. But when you think about how much things have changed since 1993, I was trying to explain to my son, who's brilliant, he's 12 years old, our youngest son, and I was trying to explain to him how in 1993, if you wanted to watch a movie, you had to get in your car, go to a store, stand in line. There might be 2 or 3 versions of and he literally couldn't wrap his mind around it. What are you talking about? And so a lot has changed since 1993. And the nice thing about AVR is it's a voting system for how we live our lives today. And in addition to adding 1.13 million new voters to the voting rolls, this will also save money. It costs about $3.54 to process a paper voter registration. It only costs about 3 cents to process an electronic or AVR style registration. And it will make our list more secure. So you mentioned folks who have concerns about voter fraud.
This is why Bruce Rauner didn't pass it last year, Ra.
Yeah,
I'm just saying, let's not rush into this, man. I know it sounds great. No, don't get me wrong. I mean, it sounds more voters. I mean, what could go wrong? But
yeah. So the nice thing is, this is it's like that commercial, that beer commercial, where it's less filling, tastes great. This is both hands, right? It appeals to folks who value democratic participation. But it also appeals to folks who are really concerned about the accuracy of our voter rolls. You know, right now, nationally, I think 1 in 8 voter registrations has inaccurate information.
say that again?
1 in 8 voter registrations nationally, there's some measure of inaccurate information. 1 in 9 people move every year nationally.
1 in 9 people move.
Right. Now, the reason why sometimes we have inefficient lists, inaccurate lists, is people die, people move. And oftentimes when people move, they fail to register or re-register.
Move in and try to get things
correct. As a result, in Illinois, there are about 700,000 registered voters that have inaccurate information. They're registered at an address they no longer live at.
And that makes them ineligible.
Well, it just makes our list dirty.
Right.
So the nice thing about AVR is it saves time, it saves money, and it ensures that we have some of the cleanest voter registration rolls in the country.
I think please. Look, I mean, if Bruce, first of all, I wanted to call you.
It's nice that you refer to him as Bruce.
Well,
like, has he been on the show yet?
No, well, we're working on it, you know.
I think
we call a lot, and that's why I wanted to ask.
I think anyone who wants to be governor of the state of Illinois has to come on this program.
Hello? What? Hello, Springfield? Say what?
And there's a race for governor in 2018.
Wait, really?
Yes.
Oh.
In 2019, there'll be a mayoral election. I think anybody who wants to be mayor of the city of Chicago has to come on this program.
You know we're streaming live, right? Look, when Bruce calls me back, I'm waiting on a text any minute now. It's more Instagram DMs between us. Yeah, we're yik-yakking. We're yik-yak buddies. Yeah, we're yickety-yak. I'll just tell him, Bruce, automatic voter registration. Tastes great, less filling.
That's right, there you go.
You're gonna love it. It's super good, you're gonna love it. I wanted to call you because I thought it's already a done deal, he's already signed it. The Bruce Whisperer.
I don't know that that's a nickname that will stick.
You don't want to whispering in his ear. Anyway, but he says he's going to do it, and then that's a victory. I mean, that's good. It's been 2 years. It's been a long, hard slog. What do you and Just Democracy have in the pipeline? What's next? If you're going to stay busy, keep moving on to the next thing. I think
there are a whole host of ways that we can improve our systems of democracy and justice, and I think there's implementation of AVR, so once it's law, it needs to be fully implemented. But there are other things like the corrosive influence of money in politics.
What?
What's happening in our politics right now in Illinois is grotesque. In terms of the amount, I think we will have the most expensive race for governor in the nation's history.
I heard that. Who is it? Ken Griffin just donated $20 million to Bruce Rauner's campaign. Bruce Rauner was also a billionaire himself.
Yeah, so we'll come back after the governor signs AVR, and we
Right.
can talk about money and politics
Very good.
after he signs AVR.
I can't wait. It's going to happen, Bruce.
But there's also redistricting, and we need to reform the way we draw legislative districts in the state.
Yeah.
And I will say, on that issue, I remember when I first started at Change, President Obama came to Springfield and he delivered a speech.
I miss those days.
Yeah, bring the Kleenex out. But he delivered this speech on building a better politics, and he talked about 3 core issues which we advocate for. One is redistricting reform, another is voting rights and automatic voter registration, and the third is campaign finance reform. And he noted in his speech that on certain issues, half of the room would stand up and applaud, and then on other issues, the other half of the room would stand up and applaud. And he made a comment on the fact that we should not be pursuing things from a lens of short-term tactical gain. We should be pursuing things from a lens of what's right and what's fair, right? And so I give Republicans on this issue a lot of credit for voting yes for AVR. There was no Republican that voted no, right?
That's,
And-
really, that's amazing,
and-
especially where we're at in Springfield right now. Seriously, that they got this done 115-0, that's amazing.
But now I think it's really time for Democrats to demonstrate some leadership on redistricting reform.
Interesting.
And that's something that is still very much on the table, and we look forward to advocating and pushing that forward in the lead up to 2021.
We're going to talk about that with all of the Democratic candidates for whatever when they come on the show, because they have to, because Ross said so.
They have to.
Got you on tape. 2 things before we wrap up. First is, what was one change that you decided to make to the bill in order to appease, let's say, the Republicans who may not have been as hot to trot for something like AVR?
We incorporated a lot of feedback from key stakeholders. I think one change that we made is expanding the number of agencies that are participating in the program. So in addition to the DMV, IDNR, Illinois Department of Natural Resources, is an agency that's participating in AVR. So if folks are going to get a hunting license or a fishing license, they can also register to vote. And that was one of the changes we made.
I'm just kidding, I'm scared of guns. But fishing poles too, it's weird. It's a weird thing. The other thing I wanted to ask you about is the cockroach theory.
Yes.
This is an interesting take on the way politicians view legislation that they may be on the fence about. Can you explain a little bit about
Yes,
that?
so my favorite, I believe that when people flex their activism muscles, when they get involved in public life, whether it's voting, writing a letter to the editor, making their voices heard, there are a few things that happen. One thing that happens is your institution, your organization wins, becomes stronger. Your community wins, whether it's by geography or however you define community, and you win. You transform yourself from someone who things happen to someone who can make things happen. I have a friend and mentor named Julie Hamos, and she's a former state rep, and she had a theory of advocacy that I've adopted called the cockroach theory. And the cockroach theory goes a little something like this. If you wake up in the morning and you go to make a bowl of cereal and you open your cupboard and you see a cockroach, chances are you would have that reaction. You kill the bug, but you probably just make your bowl of cereal, go about your day. Day two, if you wake up and you go downstairs and you open your cupboard and you see 2 cockroaches, chances are you'd be surprised, but you probably just kill the 2 bugs, make your bowl of cereal, go about your day. Day 3, if you wake up and you go and you open your cupboard and you see 3 cockroaches.
Okay, now we got a problem.
So now you probably are going to take some action.
Yeah.
You might go and buy some bug spray, you might call an exterminator, but the reason why you're taking action is not because of 3 bugs. It's in the back of your mind. You're thinking about all the little bugs you can't see. And not to equate constituents with cockroaches, but elected officials have the same calculus. And, you know, we produced a handbook on advocacy and civic engagement, and then State Senator Barack Obama gave us a quote. And his quote was, if he received 10 messages from his constituents, he was going to take action. And the reason why he's going to take action is because of this idea that the views of those 10 constituents probably reflect the views of the broader constituency. And there are way more than 10 people here tonight, and if we all decided to focus on something and take action together, there's not much we can't accomplish.
Sounds pretty good to me. Ra, I want to thank you for coming back and joining us for a second time. We can't get a lot of people to pick up the phone the second time, so I appreciate it. And this is honestly no small feat that you've accomplished here. You, Change Illinois, and the rest of Just Democracy are really moving the ball forward. This is something that I think everyone here will keep our eyes on as time goes on. And, you know, we're rooting for you. Is there anyone else that you think should definitely come on the show? Like people who have been presidents that might be from the general area, or like sitting presidents, or, you know, anyone at all, sitting mayors, I don't know. Just go nuts, man.
All of the above.
Excellent news. Rod, seriously, thanks again, and come back soon, will you?
Thanks for having me.
Rod Joy, everybody! Rod Joy.